In this episode of Film Gear and Review, we're going to be reviewing Sony's new EX cameras that came out, the PMW 320 as well as the 350. More to come.
I'm Josh Hatfield. We're down here at the studios. We're here today. We're showing off the new Sony PMW 320K and the PMW 350 Sony EX cameras. I'm here with
Ted Setla, filmmaker, editor, producer.
You know, you've probably seen a ton of products that you've had in the past that you're like, I wish I wouldn't have bought this, but I think, you know, with the 320 and the 350, I think these are cameras that, you know, we've discussed that you would actually like to own.
For me and some of the experience and the filmmaking that I do, it really is kind of the next camera that I need to look at.
Yeah.
So,
you have the EX3s right now. You have two EX3s.
correct.
And why would you want to purchase one of these cameras when you basically, you know, you can do basically on the EX3s what you can do with these cameras? What would be the main reason that you would want to purchase a PMW 350 or 320?
I think that for any indie filmmaker, you know, we're always looking for the type of camera that will allow us to get into the areas to do the type of shots that we want to do easiest. I've gone out and I've purchased a Steadicam rig. I've gone out there and purchased other equipment to do the shoulder mount on the EX3s. I've really tried to, you know, outfit many of the other handheld style cameras or semi-shoulder mount cameras and spent thousands of dollars with that extra gear. Okay. So I find that a lot of the shooting I'm doing can be done shoulder mount, and it gets the effect that I need. If I need a tripod, I can get a tripod, but ultimately having a shoulder mount camera is really what I need for a lot of the style I'm shooting.
Okay. So that makes sense. So basically, you know, you buy EX3 or EX1 and then you figure out that you're not really happy with the ergonomics of the camera, and then you find out you really want a shoulder mount camera, right?
Right.
So you end up buying all these other third-party accessories and spend, you know, like you said, thousands of dollars.
Right.
When you could have just bought a shoulder mount camera the first time and been done with it.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are in the same situation.
I bet.
And that's why Sony came out with this second.
Well, and I think that they're starting to listening to the film community a bit more. I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably the reason. So on the as far as the LCD, what is the major difference between the 320 and maybe the EX3 LCDs? That,
you know, visually, I think they're both at the same clarity. I think they're both they look incredible. The HD quality that they offer, the abilities that, you know, the size of it is just remarkable. I think they're both on the same quality level there. But on the 320 and the 350, you've got multiple angles in which you could look at this. So you're looking at it from a normal view there. You can pop it up and look underneath here. And honestly, I've found myself in just the short time I was using it, using both angles. Okay. And because of the mirror system that's inside of it, they've got the switches on the front of the camera that allow you to switch how it's presented at each angle. So it's always in the same or the right preview.
So yeah, I could see where, you know, flipping that up would be really handy if you had a client that wanted to see the video and you didn't really want them to get in your eyepiece and mess up the shot. You could just flip it open real easy for them.
And also when you're in a studio such as this and we're recording without any cameramen, you know, that type of situation is really important to be able to say, hey, this is what we look like, and have it. You know, the EX3 does that. It does move in the way that it needs to, but this gives you a bit more options. And it feels, I hate to say it, a little sturdier.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's one of my first loves I saw about the camera was the LCD.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. Now, as far as the lens, the difference between the two lenses, it's obviously just, you know, one's a 14 and one's a 16. Is there any more difference between the two lenses that you saw besides that?
You know, I did not see a whole heck of a lot of difference between the lenses. The more you can zoom in, some narrower depth of field you can achieve, of which you would, in sports situations and whatnot, you could use the bigger lens, the more zoom. But ultimately, I saw the same quality come out of both of them.
Okay.
Although on the handheld part of the 320 and 350, I've noticed that there's a couple extra options here where you can assign a button here to delete a clip,
Okay.
delete your last clip, as well as doing manual and auto iris right on the handheld portion of this,
Okay.
which it's not actually on the EX3 too. So that was a, I don't want to say a significant upgrade, but it does make things a little bit easier to get your adjustments right on the fly.
Oh, cool.
So
That is cool. I know one thing we talked about that you really liked was the audio situation on this
Absolutely.
camera. Tell me a little bit about that.
I found that you know, having only 2 inputs in the EX3, while I have a field mixer and I can go ahead and plug in as many as I need to and work it out that way, I found that having up to 5 inputs on 4 channels is something that I would use regularly. And if I had 1 or 2 of these cameras on any film shoot, having the ability to have everything just attached to this camera without the field mixer sometimes makes life a little easier. For some of the reality stuff that I film, you know, I don't always have time to have a sound guy with me.
Right.
I need to have 2, 3, 4 people mic'd up. That being said, how am I going to get all that together? Well, you can attach 2 wireless here, 2 wireless here, have a field, you know, a boom mic up here, and ultimately I've got 4 people that I've wirelessly mic'd up in a scene, and that's pretty
huge.
cool.
That is cool.
So,
And you can control it right at the camera, and you're set. That's
yeah,
great.
exactly.
Yeah, I know it. Every picture I've seen so far with this camera, they picture the DWRS 1D recorder or wireless receiver.
Right. I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I wish this came standard.
It's not standard, so yeah, it actually.
That's a $3,000?
Yeah, about a $3,000 receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without that, you have 3-axis inputs for audio. So by adding this, you can add, you can have up to 4 recorded audio inputs.
You get what you're saying, but ultimately, you know, just to have the ability to go as many inputs as this camera is, period. As a
great.
filmmaker, you know what? That's just sweet.
It is.
So
It's pretty cool, for sure. So yeah, I mean, on the EX3, you got everything is kind of built into a menu system. Now with this camera, what's is it a little bit different? Is it a menu-driven system, or is how is it different for the EX3?
I found, for the most part, most of the menus are very different, by far. The menu items that you find in the EX3 are literally placed on the outside of this camera to make for a quick switch. And I found that actually, once you get used to the configuration and where everything is at, they've made it so that each one of the menu items has either a plate over it or it's adjusted and it's a completely different dial in different spots so that you recognize where things are without having to visually see it. Now that's an upgrade. That's definitely an upgrade to the style of camera. So I'll tell you what, I'm pretty pleased with what I've found on the 320. Again, we're still talking about the S/S cards. That come, the slots on the other side, so it's a complete tapeless workflow. You have the opportunity to actually use the Sony hard drives,
right?
Which, when you start thinking about it, it records the same way the EX3 or the EX1 does. So there really is no change in that overall format. You can record 422 10-bit out of the SDI port in the back. So for those who are like, oh my goodness, it only has the 420 codec or whatever, 420 Spectrum, you have the ability to actually go up by outputting the SDI port.
Right.
So that's something that I realized. And using, say, the AJA Key Pro or the
Convergent Design.
Exactly.
Nano Flash, yeah.
The Nano Flash. You have the ability to convert it to either the Apple ProRes or the XDCam HD codecs for other post-production workflows.
Exactly.
So you've been watching this episode of Film Gear and Review. We've been discussing a little bit the PMW 350 and the 320. Hope you enjoyed.